I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C., the IMF headquarters, and I'm in conversation with Professor Geeta Gopinath. Thank you for talking to us here on ET Now. Today, the IMF had a press conference where they did announce that India is going to be the fastest growing economy in 2018, some temporary blips in 2017. Do you concur with that view? Is India still the sweetest spot on this planet?
I'm a big fan, so yes, I would say that India is a great place to invest in terms of its prospects. I know that much has been made about the decline in growth rate in the recent quarter. I actually do think that that would be temporary. So there is a reason to expect that there will be a turnaround, which is consistent with what the IMF's World Economic Outlook was saying. So I'm optimistic.
So, we don't have Dr. Arvind Subramanian attending the annual meeting this year of the IMF and the World Bank, but he was kind of vindicated today, if I may say so, by the IMF, propagating and saying the universal basic income would be good for India. A lot, it's a very contentious topic when you talk about the UBI. What are your views on it?
So the big concept of the UBI is something, that I would agree with it. It has some good ideas, but there are three things that make me worry about its implementation. One, if you truly want to stick to the language of being universal, it means giving transfers to everybody in the population, and that's very expensive. I mean, including Ambanis would get a check. That would be the whole universality of it. And that I don't think makes sense at all. The second thing is that universal basic income basically gives people a minimum livelihood, and it's good for extreme poverty, but it's not a solution for joblessness, because people are not exactly looking for handouts. People actually want to live meaningful lives, and they would like a job. So the UBI doesn't address that either. So I think that.
You don't sound like you're in favor of it, actually, besides what you said in the opening sentence.
Yes, I guess what I'm in favor of is the basic idea that there needs to be some serious redistribution in terms of making sure that all parts of society benefit from growth. And that part of UBI I am completely in agreement with. But you're right that the universality idea and the idea of just giving people money without having meaningful work are two things I'm not agreeing with.
But I would imagine that if the government were to even experiment with it, for example, the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has said that while it's a great idea, it may not be politically feasible. I would imagine that they would want to give it to the needy or those that do deserve it, or to the jobless. And the IMF said we should also be fiscally prudent. So with that concept in mind, where do you stand?
I do think that transfers have to be targeted in India.
But we have started doing that, to be fair.
Yes, absolutely. So there are programs in place. I'm a big fan of the Aadhaar-based transfer mechanism. That's working. I would just continue to improve that particular transfer system. I don't see a need for India to take on UBI right now.
Okay, you don't see the need for that. Okay, that's great to know. The other thing I want to ask you, and what is really hot in India at the moment, is should the government stick to the fiscal deficit target, or should it accept fiscal slippages, come out with a fiscal stimulus to give, get growth back to the pre-GST and pre-demonetization levels? What do you think?
See, I don't think that trying to have a growth strategy that relies almost entirely on government spending is very good. And right now, a lot of the growth in India has been coming not from the private sector, but has been coming from the government sector. And while that may be okay in a short period when they're trying to do some reforms that can have short-run disruptions, I'm okay with that. But in terms of, playing it would come across as playing fast and loose with fiscal deficit targets, I'm not in favor of that.
So we should stick to 3.2% for this financial year as was being targeted? I
think that would be good, given that there was much made about increasing the size of the tax base and getting more people in. I think they should be able to raise revenues for it.
I was at Columbia University as part of the delegation with the finance minister, and I got a chance to interview Jagdish Bhagwati, who said the IMF should be abolished. Then I was at Harvard University yesterday and I had a chance to interview Professor Kenneth Rogoff, and he said while Jagdish Bhagwati deserves a Nobel Prize, he's going to disagree with him on this one. So I'm going to bring up the scandalous comment with you and ask you what you make of it.
Yeah, well, I'll have to first find out why he said that and what he had in mind, because it sounds a little bizarre to me. So what did he have in mind? Did
He
say
basically, I asked him that what did you make of the new India forecast, and he said the IMF has lost its reputation, it's been going horribly wrong, they're not doing a great job as far as lending goes either, it should be abolished.
Actually, I disagree with that. Now, he's right to the extent that IMF forecasts have not been accurate, but, pretty much no forecast in any of the organizations have been accurate. But they serve many other roles, and they've had a big role in the financial crisis. And so, no, I don't think they should be abolished.
And you've done some fabulous work when it comes to the dollar index, and that's of course having a cascading impact on the Indian economy as well. Nobody can predict where the dollar index is headed, but given the kind of volatility that we see today that has become the new normal, are you worried when it comes to the Indian economy?
It is always going to, in this case, India is not unique. I think all emerging markets deal in world markets where the dollar is dominant, which means that regardless of what India does in its trade with most other countries in the world, what really matters is its exchange rate relative to the dollar. And so any fluctuations have costs. I think that's part of the reason why Raghuram Rajan has always talked about US monetary policy internalizing the effect of its policies on emerging markets. And that is something that they will just, it will be a constant challenge for the RBI to deal with.
When you're talking about the RBI, the centre and the Modi government continues to say they should cut interest rates. They're not giving growth a chance. So do you think maybe the RBI should not look so much at inflation? 3.8% during monsoon time, not so bad.
So they have a target of 4% with plus or minus 2 percentage points. So they do have a bandwidth. I actually expected them in the last 6 months to have cut rates more than they have. But they're paying close attention to, underlying inflation numbers, and maybe they know something I don't. But it seems a little bit on the tighter side, RBI policy.
And it's been quite interesting because, Dr. Arvind Subramanian keeps coming out with data to say, hey, the RBI is wrong once again with its forecast. So how much of a rate cut do you think they should have done, or going forward, do you think they will maybe do it?
I don't know what they're going to do. I would not have been surprised if they had cut it by another 25 or 50 basis points. I don't see why that would have triggered much in terms of inflation. It could have been good for growth.
You're also advising the Kerala Chief Minister, so I want to get to just understand, we've seen the rollout of the GST, the landmark tax reform. Did he ever consult you on it?
We are in communication and we talk about different issues. I don't want to raise any particular issue. As you know, I've been incredibly cagey about this.
Yes. Yes, we have seen some issues.
So I'd like to leave it at that. But we are in communication. So.
But how do you think the world sees the rollout of the goods and services tax? It may not be uniform one tax at the moment, but how do you think the world is seeing it?
I think it's from the world's perspective, it is viewed very positively. The overall opinion has been that India adopting a uniform, it's not uniform, but a move towards a more uniform single tax system is very good and is very welcome. I'm a little worried about the changes that are being made on a continuous basis to the many aspects of GST. Some of it is with an eye on the inflation the elections that are coming around. And so those are the aspects that I worry about more. But as a policy, I think there is widespread acceptance of it being a good thing for India.
So when you say populist, or you mean with an eye on the election, is it the ones like, for example, reducing the number of returning files, etc.?
Yes. So there are issues that need to be fixed in terms of the ease with which you can operate the GST. But the kind of having even more nuanced differentiation across products in terms of what gets taxed and what doesn't get taxed. I think that's opening a whole can of worms.
But I am talking to you in Washington, D.C. in the United States. My final question to you, whatever it is that the FOMC decides to do, whether it's an out-of-turn rate hike, etc., do you think it has been priced in by the markets around the world, or do you think emerging markets should brace themselves for bad news?
So two things. I think first that the markets are anticipating that there will be another rate increase. But importantly, Yellen is not aiming for heading back towards 4% interest rates. I think she has in mind something at most a 2 percentage point nominal rate. So this might be, they might do one or another one of these rate increases, but they're not going to keep doing this for until you hit 4%. I think the expectation is that the rates are going to stay low.
There's a lot of talk here in the United States about who's going to succeed Janet Yellen. Who are you betting on?
I'm not, no, don't play this game. In fact, I'm actually hoping that she gets renewed. I would love to see that.
Oh, you'd love to see that?
Yes, absolutely.
And my final question to you, this is going to be a slightly controversial one from back home. We've seen, a lot of political criticism when it comes to the Indian economy, on the finance minister as well, from within the BJP. What do you make of it? Do you think he's done a good job? Or, he's, Narendra Modi has said that a lot of people are just trying to spread doom without the backing of facts.
Yes, indeed, this is controversial. The bottom line is that I think it's very healthy for everybody to raise issues and concerns about the economy. I do think that the GST was a very good thing. I do think the demonetization was not something that should not have been done. And it's fine to debate these issues. It would help. I think one of the things Mr. Yashwant Sinha said was to have kind of more hands on deck. I think that was part of his point, was not to have so few people. And I think I agree with that. It's not a bad idea to have a little broader circle of people who are advising you and talking to you and you're working with. But yes, I mean, this is healthy in terms of having these debates. But some of the reforms I think have been very good.
So you think that maybe they are right when they say there are a lot of agents that are always going to criticize irrespective of what the government says?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think this government needs any protection from the media. I mean, they have their supporters in plenty.
Professor Geeta Gopinath, thank you so much for taking the time out and talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.